up? It is the Funnel Doc here with, oh my goodness, I'm so honored and amazed to be here right now and talking to you. Russell Brunson, the founder of ClickFunnels, the man that literally changed the course of my life, and I know so many other people's. It started with that book right there behind you or next to you, .com Secrets. Yeah, seriously, literally, it's such a powerful thing. I don't know if you realize how much impact and power your books have actually had. I know you're a real humble guy, and I can tell by the look on your face, you're already like, oh my goodness. but it has, man. Like, I mean, I was introduced .com Secrets from Bedros Keuilian when I was learning fitness marketing back then, and it transformed everything about that I knew about marketing. And I saw your vision and saw that funnels were the future of everything when it comes to marketing and getting leads. So, I mean, you know, I tattooed myself. But the thing was, though, too, you wrote Expert, and I remember doing that, and you're like, there's no way in heck I'm ever writing a book again. So what inspired you to feel that you needed to write, you know, and unlock, you've got traffic and unlock the secrets as well. What inspired you to do that?
Yes, that's a good question. And Unlock Secrets is a workbook. So it wasn't that one wasn't too hard for me. This is a workbook that goes with the 3 books, which is kind of fun. But it's fun. Yeah, after every time I've written a book, .com Secrets, I think it's like giving birth. Like afterwards, like, I'll never do that again. And then a few months later, you're like, maybe I'll do it again. And then like a year later, okay. But no, after .com Secrets, I'll never do it again. And then Expert Secrets, I felt called. I was like, this is the thing that people were missing, right? After people got good at building funnels, I saw a lot of people they had really good funnel structure and it was working. But then like, there's a difference, as you know, there's a difference between having a funnel and having a funnel makes money, right? And the difference is not something magical. It's the person's ability inside the funnel to tell their story and to move somebody from page 1 to page 2, and then from funnel 1 to funnel 2, and have a movement. And like, that was the thing that people were missing. And so that's why I was like, I could do a second book so people understand that piece of it. But then again, after that book was done, I'm like, this was so painful. I'm never going to do it again. And then the real story is, it was day 2 of the Expert Secrets book launch. And John Reese, who owned TrafficSecrets.com, and those who don't know John, he was the first guy in our world to do $1 million in a day with selling a course called Traffic Secrets back when I first got started, like 15 years ago. And he messaged me and was like, hey, I'm thinking about selling off all my businesses. Do you want to buy Traffic Secrets from me? And I was like, oh no. I was like, that's like the last piece. Like, we have funnels, we have conversion to funnels. Last piece is I was like, I have to have it. And I emotionally just was like, I have to get it. So we bought it from him. And then for a year I sat on, because I was like, I don't know how to write a book about traffic. I mean, as you know, traffic changes so fast and so often. And I was like, I had so much fear about it. So for a year I sat there, I was like, I don't even know how to write this book. And after about a year, I had this aha of like, oh my gosh, there's a way I can write it where it'll be evergreen and it won't just disappear and won't last, you know. And it was funny, about that time I was at Funnel Hacking Live, and I was on stage giving people their, in fact, I think it was the year you came up and got your 2 Comma Club X award. And I was like, there's people with the 2 Comma Club Award, 2 Comma Club X. And this year we launched 2 Comma Club C. And I was like, looking at all the funnels, I'm like, there's not a big difference between the funnels. The biggest difference between $1 million funnel and a $100 million funnel is how many people come in the front. I was like, if people really want to scale a company, it's mastering these traffic secrets, like how to get more people into it. And so I was like, okay, we're going to do it. And so the last 18 months has been a labor of love, getting it done and written. And now it's so fun to finally have a chance to like tell people about it and talk about it. And I can't wait for everyone to get a copy in their own hands.
I'm getting actual goosebumps just thinking about the book. I mean, seriously, like right now, because here's the thing, as much as .com influenced me, Traffic Secrets is amazing. Like I haven't read it. I listened to it. As you know, we haven't gotten our hard copies yet, but oh my goodness, Russell, wow. Like, you put so much value in there. Like, and people don't get, like, anybody watching this, don't think that it's like just traffic. You go into like affiliate marketing, you know, and by the way, I know a lot about you, but I don't think I ever knew you were called Rusty, you know, so.
I revealed all the secrets in here.
Right, all the secrets are in the last one, so you have to get it. But seriously, it's really almost like it's a necessity. People don't realize how important this is, because you don't just cover like paid traffic. You go into that, you go into organic, you go into Dream 100. It's really, I mean, like everything you could ever need, so much. But something you jump into right away, which is I feel so important and so overlooked so often, is the customer avatar. And like getting to know your dream customer, can you talk a little bit about the importance of the need of that and why you went into it in Traffic Secrets?
Yeah. In fact, it's funny. If you look at all three books, I start all three books talking a lot about this because most people, and I'm guilty as well. When I started my first business, I did how most entrepreneurs do, where you're sitting around, all of a sudden you have the light bulb idea, like, oh, if I create this thing, people will love it. So you spend like a year creating this amazing thing, and then you have it, and you're like, oh, no one's buying it. So then you're like, I gotta figure out how to sell it. So then you spend the next year like figuring out how to sell it. You make a sales letter to funnel. You're like, now I've got this product in the funnel, and you're like, nobody's buying it, and you have to like, I have to go find people now to sell it. And you're running around trying to find traffic, and eventually you find it, and people are like, why did you create that? Like, doesn't make it, or whatever. And you're trying to shove it down their throats. And like, that was my business for the first, 3 or 4 years. And eventually I created a couple of things. I got good at like selling it, and like we made some money, but it was just like, I don't know. In fact, I talked about this in the .com Secrets book. I remember waking up one day, laying in bed, and I was like, I don't want to go to the office. I was like, I wish I had a boss that could fire me. And I was like, why am I so miserable? And I started thinking, and I realized it was because like the customers I was selling my products to, I was not in love with. I don't know. They weren't like my people. I found them, and they were the ones who happened to buy the thing, but they weren't. It was backwards. And I remember about that time, luckily, it's looking back now, but like my business started crashing. It was about time the last recession. Everything kind of fell apart. I remember like it fell apart, and I had this little window of time to kind of like to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I was like, well, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I remember the first thing I thought was like, I know I don't want to sell to those people. Like, that's all I know is like, that was not who I like. And then I was like, well, if I don't want to sell them, who do I want to sell to? And like, that was something I'd never asked myself before. And I sat down and I was like, well, what do they look like? Like, what are they? And I remember went to Google Images, and I typed in, I still remember I was like, the guy I want to serve, his name is going to be Mike. And he used to be an athlete, and he was successful, but he got like, he got thrilled at being an athlete, but he wants to help other people. And I was typing these phrases into Google Images, and I clicked a button, and all of a sudden all these faces pop up. And I was looking around, and there's one guy, I was like, that's Mike. Like, that's the guy. Like, so I clicked it, I printed out a picture, I put it in a frame, I put it on my wall, like, there's Mike. And I was like, all right, well, how about the women? Who do I want to serve? And I was like, her name's gonna be Julie. And like, I started going through, and I started in Google Images, brain dumping what like my dream customer looked like. And I clicked it, a bunch of pictures popped out, and one of them, I was like, that looks like the Julie I want to serve. And I printed out her picture, put it on my wall, and I was like, there's Mike and Julie. And like, it was like, and I tell people this all the time, be like, oh yeah, but no one ever does. Like, I literally had framed pictures on the wall, and I look at the wall, I'm like, there's Mike and Julie. And so that now started that way. Instead of me thinking of a product and trying to find people, it was like, who are the people? And then I was like, okay, now where are these people at? And that's what chapter 2 in Traffic Secrets is like. Now, where are these people hanging out at? I was like, okay, what do I know about these guys? Like, I know, and I started looking at all the things I knew about them. And based on that, like it leaves footprints. Like, okay, and there's obvious stuff. Like, let's say if I want to sell entrepreneurs, like you can go to the entrepreneur places and there's people, but the more you know about a person, the more different places you can find them. So the question is, who's my dream customer and where are they congregating? And so you start looking, I think that most people think about traffic like, okay, I'm going to target my dream customer on Facebook, and we're going to have some, and that's a thing that's good, but there's so much more traffic out there. So you start thinking like, hey, what are all the blogs they read? You start looking for all different blogs. That's number one. Then say, okay, now what are all the podcasts they listen to? Okay, and here's a whole bunch of podcasts. And what are the people on Instagram they follow? Who are the YouTube channels? What email lists are they on? Start looking at all these things, and all of a sudden it opens up just these pockets of your dream customers everywhere. And then from that, now we go out there and we start figuring out how to get in front of them and bring people into our world. But when you start with that, when you start with the dream customer first, it becomes easier. And then also, it's interesting because I used to always create products like Russell was creative and he had an idea and then try to jam it down people's throats. But like, I realized more and more that like success in business is less about creativity and more about your ability to listen. So I started going to these congregations of my dream customers, and I would just listen, like, what are they struggling with? And literally, like, if you look at, like, ClickFunnels came from listening to people, like, this is where they're struggling. .com Secrets book came from, like, we were selling ClickFunnels and people didn't understand it. So, like, we wrote that book. And then Expert Secrets came from listening to people and like, all the products and services we create nowadays are coming from just listening to our audience. Like, what are they struggling with? Like, oh, let's create something to help serve that need. And it's not creative, but it's like, when you create it and you give back to them, it converts. It just works because it's like they tell you, like, literally, I posted on Instagram like 2 weeks ago this little image, and it was like, the secret to business success. Step 1, find a hot market. Step 2, ask them what they want. Step 3, give it to them. There you are. There's business in a nutshell. And that's literally what it's become. And I think, it's the opposite of like create a product, jam it down people's throats and force them to, like, that's how most people do business. And it's like shifting it, like, understand your customer, and then everything else just becomes really easy.
Yeah, it's so hard when people do it the reverse. It's almost setting yourself up for failure so often, when the other way almost guarantees success because you're asking your customer what you want. It's so obvious, but yet people don't do it so often. So I love that you teach frameworks versus the actual tactics so often, because people don't understand that, like, the actual tactics expire over time. And when you learn the frameworks, you can use that forever. Could you tell a little bit of why you decided to teach that in Traffic Secrets?
Yeah. One of the biggest ones is because, when you're writing a book, it took me 18 months to write the book, and then we got to get it published and printed and shipped. And like the book starts shipping like May 5th. So there's still like this gap. But I had to have the final manuscript in back in October. So if you look at like what Facebook looked like in October versus today, it's different. If you look at like TikTok, for example, TikTok in October, no one knew what it was. Today it's this huge thing. And so as like anything I write that's tactical, by the time people get this book, it's not going to be real. Or in a year from now or 2 years from now, and I was like, I don't want to put this much effort into a project that's going to expire. And so I had to come a step back and be like, hey, if I can't talk about the tactics, like what are the strategies, what are the principles people have to understand at a bigger level? And what's interesting is I started, and again, this is the year that I sat on the book before I wrote it. I was trying to figure out how to do this. Like, how do I make something that's not going to expire? Like, I want when I'm dead, people would read this book and be like, oh my gosh, how did Russell know that this was going to be happening in the world today? And it's like, because there are these timeless principles. And what's interesting is the way I learned traffic initially, to put this in context. So I know some of you guys think I'm like 17 years old, but I've actually, this is my 17th year in this business. So I just turned 40 this year, but I've been doing this since I was 22, anyway, for a long time. But if you look at like the history, like right now, everyone knows Facebook. Before Facebook, there was this thing called MySpace. Some of you guys, know that. The young kids don't. And then before MySpace was Friendster. And before Friendster, there was no social networking, right? And so that's the world that I got started in. It's like there was none of these things. And there weren't internet marketing seminars happening and books. And like there wasn't, the world was different. And so when I was trying to learn this game, I was like, who do I learn from? And the only group I really found were these old school direct response guys like Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer. So I joined their mastermind groups. Remember, I'd go to these things and I was the only internet guy in the room. There were all these like old school, like people running infomercials and direct mail campaigns and radio and TV and newspapers. And like, those are the guys in these groups. And I remember they used to tease me, like, they'd come in like, hey, Russell, this is an envelope. It shows up in people's mailbox. Have you ever seen one of these before? I'm like, yes, I've seen them. Anyway, they'd always mess with me. But one night when these meetings, one of the older guys leaned over to me and he was like, he said something that was so profound. He's like, you know why most of you internet guys, your businesses are like this all the time? Like you have big ups, you make a bunch of money, and then there's downs and back and forth. And I was like, no, why? And he's like, because you guys think the internet is a business. And I was like, it is, isn't it? And he's like, no. He's like, you don't understand. He's like, the internet is just a media channel, just like radio or direct mail or TV or newspaper. Like it's a media channel. And when you understand that, it's like all the laws and the rules and the principles that apply to every other media channel also apply to the internet. And I was like, huh. And so I started looking, and so I started learning direct mail from these guys in radio. And then how do these principles over here, how do they sync over here? And when you see that correlation, it's like, oh my gosh, this is really simple. And you look at like Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, like the principles are the same in all these different platforms. You look at now TikTok that's huge. Like you look at Twitch, you look at any new platform that comes out. Let's say me and you have an idea next month for a new idea and we launch a new social network. Like these principles will work in that as well. Right. And so like, that's how I learned traffic way back in the early days of the internet, back from these guys. And when these new platforms came out, we always had success because we just took these principles we knew, we laid them on top of the new platforms. And so my goal with this book was really to help people to understand those principles so that when the next platform comes out, or the ones you're like, if you want to focus on YouTube, like, hey, here's the principles, apply them on YouTube and you have success. Here's the principles, apply them on Instagram, on like whatever platform you want. But if you don't understand the principles, it's not going to be there. But the nice thing about principles, again, is they don't change either. Like they'll still work tomorrow. And so that's kind of why we did it that way. And hopefully it's, I think everyone, when they get the copy of the book, you'll read and you'll see, but it makes it more timeless so that it'll apply to anything. And it gives you a better, I don't know, like right now there's so many ups and downs.
Right.
For those who have only been doing business in the Facebook era, I'm gonna ruin the surprise for you guys, because I've seen this now. I've been through, I think, like 7 or 8 different slaps, like the Google slap 1, 2, 3, 4, and what happens is like a network starts and they make it really easy for everybody, right? So everyone comes in, they dump their advertising money in, and it's really easy and everyone has success. And then what happens is then it shifts from being really easy to like, it becomes more expensive. So you got to pay to play. And that's the next shift that starts happening, right? And after the pay to play, then they get everyone up there to figure out who's actually willing to spend money, who's not. And then they cut off the smaller brands and they focus on the big brands. And then at that point is when the big slap happens, where a lot of entrepreneurs like us get kicked out. Okay, it's happening. Google happened. And like right now it's happening to Facebook. Facebook, if you remember 7 years ago, you came in, it was like free viral traffic. It's so easy. Everyone came in and started publishing. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, now it's kind of free, but you got to pay to amplify your posts. And so like people are boosting posts and amplifying, and they got harder and harder. And like, that's where right now. And then right now we're on this thing where like people's ads accounts are getting shut down like crazy all over the place. And it's like, we're like teetering on this thing that's about to be like, whoo, the other side of it. And nobody knows. And in so many companies, all they know is Facebook ads. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I've seen this pattern happen so many times in my career. And if they're not aware of it, you're going to be in trouble when it hits. And so this book really for me is to help prepare our whole community so they understand that, so that when these things hit and it happens, that they're ready for it.
So if there is someone new starting out, is there one type of medium or traffic that you feel is better than another for someone like that?
That's a good question. I think I would say yes, but it's not a universal, right?
Sure.
I say for each person, yes, like there's very specific things. And I think it's a lot based on your own personality and things like that. The same thing, like I remember when I first started my coaching program, my first couple of people, like Drew Canoli was one of the first people I coached, and he was like, had a supplement company. So like we focused on like a very specific way to do his funnel, do everything. And Liz Benny came in, and Liz was like, thought we were gonna build a funnel like that. And I was like, no, you need to do a webinar. She's like, why do I do a webinar? I'm like, you're someone who needs to be on stage. Like you are like, that's your gift. Like, this is like, you should be doing this kind of funnel, not that, And so like, it was different because of the personalities of the entrepreneurs behind it. I think the same thing's true with traffic. It's like, I think for most people, you got to figure out like, first comes down to like what is the platform that you like the most, that you spend the most time on, right? Like if you're someone who spends a ton of time on Facebook and you understand how it works, you understand what's working, like you should focus on Facebook. But if you're not, you shouldn't do Facebook, right? Like for example, I remember when we were killing on podcasts, and then we started killing on Facebook. We're starting to like, add new channels in. And then a couple of years ago, we're like, let's do YouTube. That's the next channel we're going to master. And so, me stupidly, I'm like, okay, I'm a marketing guy. I know how to do this. Like I know how to make videos. We have an amazing video team. So we did over 100 episodes of this Funnel Hacker TV show that I thought was going to kill it on YouTube. And like, we posted them out there and we got almost no traction. And I was just like, I didn't get it. And you have to understand, like, I'm not someone who watches YouTube. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I don't go on YouTube app. I don't watch YouTube so I didn't really get it. I think we launched like episode 101, 102. And I was just like, I don't get why I'm spending so much money trying to like produce these amazing shows that nothing really is coming from it. I remember that night I came home kind of frustrated. I sat down and we were out on our couch, and my kids were watching YouTube on the TV, and they're watching it. And all of a sudden I was like, I realized that they watch YouTube differently than I assumed. And I was like, I'm going to watch my kids watch YouTube. For the next like 2 or 3 hours, I watched my kids watch YouTube. I was like, what are the thumbnails they're clicking on? And they were different than what I thought. Like they were clicking on these cheesy, dorky ones. I'm like, why are you clicking? Like, but that was the ones that grabbed their attention. And then like they'd watch the video, and I'd noticed that the way that the people whose videos had like 5, 10, 20 million views, like what they were doing and how they're saying things, how they're hooking people, what they were, and it had nothing to do with like the production value. Like I thought it was a TV show. We had these intros that were like, 2 minutes long. They're so like, it looked like an amazing TV show intro. But I'm like, TV and YouTube are not, as much as we think they're the same, they're different. And so I started watching these guys, and for hours, watched my kids watching them. And I remember I was taking notes, like sketching out like the script of the YouTube videos that all these ones that had 10 plus million views, and my kids were just dying and sucked into. And I remember going home that night, or I was home already, but like my kids went to bed, like getting my phone. I was like, I'm going to film a video based on this script. That's so embarrassing. And I followed the process. And I posted that video with no production value, no money put behind it, me on my iPhone, plugged it in, and I ended up getting like, I don't know, like 80 or 90,000 views in the next couple of weeks. I was just like, because I didn't understand the platform. So I think the biggest thing is like for people to start, like the best traffic source is going to be the platform you understand, the one you spend the most time on. So if you love listening to podcasts, like that's what you should plug in. If you love Facebook, that's what you should plug in. Like pick the one that you're inherently most natively using yourself, because you're going to understand like the language and the feel, and like at a different level than you would if you're just like, oh, I'm going to do a YouTube channel today because I saw an ad about how YouTube videos are awesome. And so I think it's different for each person.
That's an awesome answer, man. That was a really, really good answer. That's going to help a lot of people for sure. Now, I love .com and Expert Secrets. They're like part of who I am, but you went back and changed things. Like, can you give us a little hints of what's inside or what's in store when we get the set?
Yes. So I think I have a problem, just so you guys all know. So I wrote the first 2 books. I had a different publisher there, paper bound. And when I did Traffic Secrets, we went with Hay House. And they're like, we want to make a hardbound version. I was like, oh, and that's like, as soon as they said he wants a hardbound book, I was like, I need all the books in hardbound. And I was like, I want to do a box, like all the thoughts in my head are like, I want to buy, like I was visualizing this, right? but their old publisher owned the rights to these other books. So I was like, so I went back to the publisher and actually bought the rights back from them. And then we sold them to Hay House or however that works so that they could have them. So they're going to put them all hardbound. And after I finished the Traffic Seekers book, they had us, they're doing the editing and stuff. And I was like, hey, is there any time, like, if I want to edit these before you guys like finalize it, do I have any chance to edit? And he's like, if you do some minor edits, that's okay, you know? And I was like, yeah, probably just a couple of edits, maybe maybe add a chapter here or there, but like, it won't be that big of a deal. And he's like, sure. But they were editing the book. So I had like, I don't know, like 6 weeks where like I wasn't talking to anybody. They were waiting for me to send in my tweaks. I started rereading the book. And then it was funny because I wrote the .com Secrets book initially, and it was just for my own experiences. It was like, hey, this is what Russell learned in the last 10 years. Let me share it with you. And it was good because I think there were a lot of really good principles, but a lot of things like I never tested these things at scale, right? It was my ideas. And some things worked really good for me, but didn't work in other businesses or other industries. Some things were very like, you know, because of the business I'm in worked, but they wouldn't work in all businesses. Sure. And since then, you know, we launched ClickFunnels. We've had hundreds of thousands of members building funnels, and I've seen so much. So the rewrite in .com Secrets was really like, now that I've seen not just me, but tens of thousands of people apply it, here's like the actual best practices that work globally, like across industries and things that work everywhere. And so it's funny, is like the original .com Secrets book was like 58,000 words. I ended up deleting almost 30,000. And then I wrote, I think it ended up over 94. It's actually a 400-page book now. So it ended up being like 90-something thousand. So it's basically at least twice the book, as big of a book as the original one. And then I sent it to him. I'm like, hey, just, you know, I did edit a chapter, but it's amazing. So hopefully you guys can do it. And they're like, what? And I was like, but don't worry, Expert Secrets will be different. Like that one I only wrote 2.5 years ago. Like it should be fine. And I got Expert Secrets and I was like, same thing. And so I spent the next 6 weeks. Anyway, so I literally basically wrote almost 3 books last year, but they're nice because they also weave together better. Because before people were like, what's first and second? Is Expert Secrets first or .com? And I'm like, kind of depends. But now I was looking through the lens of like, .com is first. What are the first core principles they need to understand? So now they're very much written in like part 1, part 2, part 3, and they cross-reference where it's like, if I'm talking about something here, but I know I spend like 4 chapters in here, I can, instead of me having like doing an okay job in .com Secrets, I'm like, look, I go to Traffic Secrets to get the deep dive, but here's kind of the overall principle, you know? So it's kind of fun being able to link them together. And so like you'll notice they cross-reference each other a lot more as well, which I think is really helpful.
Wow, that's good because, yeah, I know that's been like the universal, which came first, expert.com, which should I read it? So now it's just in chronological order, just do it. And it sounds like they're like almost a whole half of a new book each one. So I can't wait till I get my copy.
It'll be fun for you. It'll be like, if you've read them in the past, you will love to do updates. I think they're like a whole new book. My friends not many people have gotten the box yet, but people who've read the new ones, like Alex Hermosi, for example, read the new one. He's like, oh, this is way better. I'm like, oh, thanks. I'm like, so whatever take that for what it's worth. But I'm excited. We're the shipping starts really, really soon. So I'm excited people start getting them and reading them and hearing people's feedback on the new versions as well.
Well, I want to be respectful. We're wrapping up here real soon because I know you're a busy guy and I appreciate your time. But you said it before, never again. Is there going to be could there be something else? Like, is there a little twinkle somewhere?
Good question. So my thoughts right now, it could change tomorrow, but this is the final, this is like the trilogy with the workbook. Like this project is complete. I feel so good and whole and complete about it. I do think I'll write again. In fact, the next project I don't know if I told you this or not, but I actually bought the domain bootstrap.com for way too much money. But I want to tell, like, this has been good for our community and for people who start internet businesses, but I want to tell the world as a whole that, like, helping them understand that a company can bootstrap. And so I want to do a book, but it's less of a how-to book and more of like the story of ClickFunnels and how we did what we did and the ups and the downs and the chaos and behind the scenes. Cause everyone sees the outside of ClickFunnels, but if you knew, what's happening behind the scenes all the time, it's crazy. We had times when software went down for a day and what happened and like people wanting to kill me and then ups and downs and legal battles and we had partnerships. Like we had a co-founder who we parted ways and like, we tell people at Funnel Like Live, like, oh, so-and-so, we bought them out, but what happened behind the scenes and what's like, there's so much I want to tell that there's never been a platform for that before. And so I think that's the next project I'm going to do it'll be a book. It'll be the Bootstrap book. I don't know when it'll come out. Again, it's not so much a how-to and more just the stories. People can see what we did and how we did it and like the actual true story. Cause I think, a lot of times you share the sunshine and roses, but I think it'll be fun to tell all of it, especially now at a point where they always say like, like share your scars, not your open wounds. And so like a lot of the scars now would be so much fun to tell these stories.
Sure.
In fact, I was talking to Dylan, who's one of our initial co-founders, and like when he left, it was kind of like there was some weirdness, but now like we're all friends and good again. And I was like, can I fly up and film you for like 3 days telling the whole story from your point of view? And he's like, oh, that'd be amazing. And so it's gonna be fun because like we can tell stories now that they couldn't in the heat of it, but it'll be really fun to do. So that's my next big writing project that I'm excited for. I'm not putting a deadline on it because, in fact, I'm not even going to pitch it to a publisher till it's done because I don't want any like stress. I just want to have fun with it and make it the next book. So yeah.
One last question. What is the future? For anyone that doesn't know, ClickFunnels is this amazing drag and drop software that you can use. It's super easy. Anybody can use it. Makes like $100 million funnels people have created. You know, it's super easy. But what is the future for that? Where are we going with that?
We have some really fun plans. A lot of them aren't public yet, but the big thing we're trying to figure out, if you've ever read the book Crossing the Chasm, I feel like we're at the chasm right now. And it's like, obviously we've grown to a certain spot, but to really make funnels and everything mainstream, we have to do some big updates. We have to change the software, we have to change. There's a lot of big things to simplify even more. And so right now that's kind of where we're in brainstorming phase. What does that look like and how does it work? And so right now the entire team is working on stabilization, just making the platform tighter and tighter and tighter as we start like visualizing and figuring out like what, you know, if we were to start over again, what would it look like? How would it be different? Like what would that, and I don't know where that's going to go. If it'll be just now we make tweaks to the original thing. If we start, I don't know exactly where, but that's the brainstorm is like, okay, if we really want this to be a mainstream thing where people from around the world are all using it in all sorts of business, people who aren't willing like me and you to geek out and read all this stuff, like how do we make it in a way for everyone? So that's kind of, anyway, that's what we're thinking around, and I don't know what that'll turn into or where, but it's fun trying to figure out the next steps. So we're not going anywhere. We're figuring out the next steps and figuring out the best way to serve everybody. So it's fun.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, there's our time. Thank you so much for being here, brother. I love you so much. God bless you, bro. Take care. I know this is going to be an amazing launch, and everyone, thanks for watching. With that, we'll wrap it up. And Russell, you have an amazing day, brother. We'll talk soon, man.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much. Talk soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.